Okay, your sewing final exam or unit test is your baby moccasins. So your baby moccasins have three parts: the sole, the tazazin or the top, and the cuff. And we're actually going to do all stitches for this. So the first part on your sole and on your cuff, you have punched out 20 holes. So I'm going to match up the first hole, and I'm going to go in that first hole on both the top and the sole. And like everything else that we've done, this is the weakest part of our shoe. This will be opened in and out as you slip your foot through, and we always start 3 times around. So after I go 3 times around, I am going to do a whip stitch. A whip stitch is my round and round. You want to do a whip stitch, not a blanket stitch. So you loop it into the first hole, you go to the second hole, you loop that around. You make sure that you pull it tight. When you're pulling it tight, it will give a little bit of a curve. So that's what you want. We call that our pucker, because your bottom material is so much smaller or larger than your upper material. You want it to pucker up. So I'm just going to go out of camera while I loop this around. Okay, I took 50 seconds off camera to finish stitching around this, and so I did my whip stitch all the way around, and I didn't pull very tight, and I've always told you to pull very tight. So one of the things I want you to do before you close it off is I want you to take your needle, and at the end pull it. In the middle you're going to pull it tight, and then at this end you're going to pull it tight. You do it, so you want to pull it tight so that it puckers up and creates that little loop, and so it creates those little loops, and that way it creates the little loops evenly. I want you to stick your fingers in it and push it so that it looks even all the way across. Once it looks even all the way across, you can give it a tug at the end. You're going to take your thread and you're going to end it the same way we always end our whip stitch. 3 times around. Now, before you end a stitch, you always want to make sure that it is secured to your fabric. So I'm going to take my thread and I'm going to go inside. I'm going to take a little bite of the fabric. I'm going to pull it until there is a small loop. I'm going to put my thread through that small loop, and I'm going to pull it tight. That's 1 knot. I'm going to do it again. That is 2 knots. So you've completed your whip stitch test. Take your moccasins and And now you're going to complete your back stitch test. You're going to take your moccasins. You're going to put the needle through the bottom, or take the needle, put it through the top of your moccasins, pull that thread through, loop it, loop it again. And do you notice how this is inside, that I've pulled the inside out? So you're going to do your back stitch. Your back stitch is where you come forward, you're going to go back to where you started and come a little forward and pull. You're going to come back to where you started, go forward and pull. Notice how I'm keeping them small. Notice how I'm going in a straight line. Back to where I started, a little bit forward and pull. Back to where I started, a little forward and pull. A little forward and pull. Back to where I started and at the end and pull. I'm going to flip these inside out. All right, so I'm going to turn that inside out. I'm going to take the little flap that I have and put it on the outside of the sole. Without even cutting my thread, I'm going to go to the corner of where this flap is. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to come out and I'm going to take this flap and fold it upwards. And I'm going to take a little bite of my thread and make a loop. And I'm going to put my thread through that loop and pull. And then I'm going to do a running stitch. So we've done our back stitch assessment. Now we're going to do our running stitch assessment. So you're going to take this and you're going to do your running stitch, which is your in and out. All along that heel. The middle of your heel should be on that middle line. So in and out, and in and out. Keep your stitches small. So I'm at the middle. I'm going to go flip it around. I'm going to do the other side. And I just want to go in and out, in and out, keeping it small, pulling it as I go, keeping it tight but not too tight, until I get all the way to the end. When I get to the end, I don't want that to be seen, so I'm going to make my little loop again. And I'm going to pull. And because I don't want the knot to be seen, I'm going to take my needle and work it to the inside. I'm going to make my loop. Go through it again and pull. So now I have the top and the bottom of my moccasin. So the very last thing that we want to do is we want to add our cuff to our moccasin. So with the cuff, you can leave it whole, or you can cut little horizontal lines across half of your cuff all the way across. You're going to take your cuff and you're going to very carefully place it on the inside of your moccasin all the way around. You're going to tie your thread, go through both materials and tie your thread to your moccasin. You're going to go 3 times around in the first spot. 1, 2, 3 times. And then you're just going to do a whip stitch, or a blanket stitch, sorry. So you're going to go through and then go through this loop. That's the easiest way. You can also put your thread in the back and just put your thread behind your needle and pull up. And then when you do that, it'll make a loop around your thread. So that's the way I usually do it, is I put my thread here, I go up, and I kind of guide so that it comes up. You want to keep your stitches small and even. You're going to go all the way around. When you get here, you're going to go 3 times around and notch your needle to, or knot your thread to your material. And that is it. That's how you finish it.